Let's go.
Let's go.
Oh, did you want to?
Sorry, I'll let you.
Next time.
I'm in love with you.
Snap out of it.
I'll have what she's having.
Too many guys think I'm a concept, or I complete them, or I'm gonna make them alive. But I'm just a fucked up girl who's looking for my own peace of mind. Don't assign me yours.
Caustic wit is my religion.
I would make a great queen because I am so stubborn.
I say when it comes to stardom and Lauren, there are no accidents.
Hi, Karen Peterson.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Citizen Dame, the podcast where we have a new president. Oh my God, we have a new president. It's amazing. I can actually say the president and not be filled with existential dread. I am Lauren Humphreys Brooks, and with me, as always, is Karen Peterson. Hello, Karen.
Hello. We also have Madam Vice President.
We have Madam Vice President.
So thrilled about that. I cried when she was, I was crying that whole morning because I was just like, oh my gosh, we made it, guys. We made it. we're gonna get through this. But when she showed up at the Capitol and was walking down the stairs with the second gentleman, it was such a cool, it was just so powerful. So
it really was. Yeah, it really was. It was very like, I don't think I've ever watched a presidential inauguration. I was thinking about that because I realized as I was watching it, because, they all have these forms, right, that they go through. And I've definitely watched clips of ones, like clips of Obama's. And
I was going to say, you didn't watch Obama's?
I don't think that I did.
Wow.
But this one was just like, no, I have to watch this. I have to see it happen because I don't believe, it's that sense of like, are we sure he's gone? Right? I've seen enough horror films to know that the killer always returns one more time before the end. And yeah, so it was definitely that sensation. But yeah, it was I got choked up definitely a few times. Yeah. And then I made the mistake of watching the rest of Return of the King afterwards. And I was just like, they know that he might die and Frodo's gonna try to save them, and they're fighting against the waves of darkness. Oh God. Yeah. So that's
those movies are so good. They're so good. But yeah, I've watched, I think, every presidential inauguration since probably Reagan's second in 1984. So yeah, it's something that it's like, it doesn't matter to me if I voted for them or if I didn't. I'm always kind of just caught up in like, this is history. This is, this is our country continuing to peacefully transfer power from one hand to the next, as we've done for over 200 years, almost 250. It's crazy. Can you believe that we're only 5 years away from our, how would they even call it, bicentennial or something like that, like 250 years since the Declaration of Independence. That's crazy. Wow. But anyway, but yeah, it's something that I love hearing the inaugural addresses. I think the only one that has ever freaked me out and made me worry was 4 years ago. It's the only one I've ever heard that I really felt like, wow, there was nothing hopeful in that speech. But this it's like, I think what really has been so comforting to me. I mean, Biden wasn't anywhere close to my first choice to become president when the primaries were going on. I voted for Elizabeth Warren because I really like her. But it's just, I think since the election was called, since it was declared that he was going to be the winner, the speeches that he has given and the promises he has made, they've been so hopeful and so positive and so forward thinking. We have a lot of stuff to undo from the last 4 years and a lot of things that we need to figure out a way to all live together. And that's going to be hard, but just hearing our president, hearing the leader of our country focus on what's to come and what we're going to do rather than all the horrible stuff that we've dealt with for the last 4 years. It was really nice to hear that. And it made me feel optimistic. It made me feel hopeful. And it made me feel like I could start to be proud proud of my country again, for, I went to India and Nepal the year that Trump became president, and like in 2017. So he was already inaugurated, and it just, everyone wanted to ask us, like, as soon as they found out we were American, they wanted to know about Trump and what it was like living in America with him as the president, and did we vote for him, and what do we think of him? And it was just like, oh my gosh, it was just like, I don't think people from here who have not traveled really have no idea what the rest of the world thinks about or why they care so much about what we do here. But what we do matters because it does affect the whole rest of the world. And I'm just, I feel hopeful.
Yeah, no, me too. Yeah, I've got a number of friends that live in Europe and that live in Britain. And I mean, the first time I went to Europe, I was 15, and it was right after 9/11. I started college in Scotland during the second Bush, like it was 2004, so it was the second Bush administration. And then so there's been a lot of just bouncing back and forth, and the last time I was in Europe was Obama was president, and there was a lot less it was interesting being in Scotland because there was a lot more animosity towards English people than there were towards Americans, which I found very interesting. Just like, I think this is the only place where I am less hated for my nationality than like another nationality. But like, even a number of my friends were just like, oh, are you guys so happy? Are you like, oh, we're so happy for you, thank God? And we're like, yes, thank you so much. We are doing a lot better all of a sudden. We all feel much better. It's
sorry.
I mean, there is this attitude of Americans are so hubristic and everything, and we are definitely. But also I think a lot of people acknowledge the fact that American policy in the world does matter, because our behavior kind of dictates other countries' behavior to a certain degree, just because we're so wealthy and we're so powerful at the moment. And, it's probably not always going to be like that, but that's simply the way that it is right now.
Yeah. I mean, there's riots happening in Russia right now and protests. I don't know. I haven't had time to dig into what's going on and who's protesting and why, but I saw some videos of people just being really roughed up by the cops and things. And I'm just like, what is happening? And I can't help feeling like it's got something to do with what's been happening here. So, yeah.
All right. I think that it's actually the pro-democratic protesters that are going after the like Putinites, etc.
That's kind of the impression I was getting. Yeah.
That's my understanding. I don't know all of the political kind of setup of Russia necessarily, other than the fact that they essentially have a dictator, even though he's not technically a dictator.
But he definitely wants to bring back the USSR. So
but that's my understanding about what's going on in Russia. So it like the behavior of America and what America represents, whether you like it or not, and I don't think that there's any reason to like it per se. Definitely means something on a global scale, and I do actually feel like, I feel a little bit of pride in my country at the moment. That's nice. It's been a while since then, but
definitely.
So this week we have a lot of different things to talk about, but we want to start actually with a listener question, because this relates to a previous episode when we talked about Wonder Woman 1984. This is from Ali Gezelbash. I am sorry if I fucked up that name. I do apologize. And they say, I am curious, what direction would you like to see for Wonder Woman 3? Is there any way to get Christina Hodson to work with Patty Jenkins on the script? And so this is interesting, because not that long ago, despite the fact that critics were bitchy about it, Wonder Woman 84 obviously did well enough that they had brought back Patty Jenkins for the next film. And I don't know. I think there are a lot of different ways that Wonder Woman 3 could go. What are your thoughts on this, Karen? I'll start with you.
Oh man. I like kind of reveling a little bit in the nostalgia stuff. There are some like I'm a little bit torn on if I want them to go a little further in time and make it a sequel to 1984, or if I want them to go back and kind of fill in some gaps between the movies, because one of my biggest questions watching 84 was, did World War II happen?
Yeah, that's I think a number of people asked that question actually. It's like, so what was Diana up to during the whole fascism thing?
Right. Well, and that question actually matters because of some of the political elements that are in place in 84. And so it's like, if World War II didn't happen, then that actually really impacts some of the things that happen, like with the oil rights and things that are part of the plot of 84. If it did happen, why did it happen? Because why didn't she stop Hitler when she saw him on the rise? She went after Ares as soon as she could. It's like there's so many. And if it wasn't Hitler, was it someone else that started that war? What were the implications? What was the fallout? And then did what happened there lead to a Cold War, which is really not referenced in 84? Was Vietnam a thing? Like, there's so many questions. So I'd kind of love to see them go back and do sort of a sequel prequel where it's sort of the in-between time and they can fill in some of that and explain things a little bit, or come up with a cool story of what might have happened in between to connect the two. But I'm also totally fine if they don't do that and they just let 84 stand and just make it a sequel. I would really love to see Cheetah come back, because I think she was a great character. Clearly we're not done with her at the end of the last movie, so I would love to see more. I would really like to see kind of how she deals with this defeat that she has suffered, and what she does about it. And but there's also some other great potential villains too. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same place as you. Like, I do have that question, like, okay, what about World War II? Because first of all, here's a perfect opportunity to get to watch Wonder Woman beat the shit out of some Nazis, which I would very much like appreciate.
Oh yeah.
I always really liked the fact, I know a number of people asked, like, well, why didn't they do World War II for the first film? And it was like, well, because World War I works better in a lot of ways because it's a stupid war, right? It's a war with no real winners and no real good guys. It's all just pretty much a bad thing that's happening, and a lot of people are dying for no real good reason. World War II, you've got a slightly different thing because you're actually fighting the rise of fascism and concentration camps and all of that. So it's a lot, you can't really do both sides on that one, although I'm certain there are some people who would like to try. But so it would be interesting to actually go back, like you say, did World War II happen? If it did, how did it happen? Given her involvement in these events. If it didn't, what does that mean for everything else? I think there are a lot of really interesting places that you could go. And then, yeah, on the other side, I want to see Cheetah come back, just because I know that she's supposed to be one of like Wonder Woman's big nemeses. And also because I just loved Kristen Wiig in that part so much, and I think that there's a lot that can still be done with her. I don't think that they're done with her at any level. She's going to come back. But so I would also like to see that. So yeah, I don't know. In terms of Christina Hodson, I would love to see Christina Hodson team up with Patty Jenkins. I think that would be awesome. I'm not holding my breath for it necessarily, but they are all in the same company right now. So yeah, I'd be down for that.
It would make me so happy. I really do want to see that happen. Yeah, for sure.
I think you could go some really interesting ways. And then maybe we could get like a dual Wonder Woman, Harley Quinn like matchup thing, and then eventually they all like get along and just, I don't know, beat the shit out of Superman or something. Who knows?
That would be amazing.
Or Batman. I never liked Batman. Batman's a fascist.
I like Batman. And I like Superman, but I don't like Zack Snyder's version of either of those characters.
Yeah, no, they're not good. Or then we could get like Harley Quinn and Aquaman and Wonder Woman, and they all can like get together and I don't know, like do something cool, like fight against some other big villain.
That would be awesome.
Like
yes, let's make that happen.
Like some sort of colonialist, misogynist bastard.
Let's just get all the birds of prey in there, not just Harley. Like, let's get
everybody.
Yeah.
This is really what we want to see.
It's all we want to see. It's really not too much to ask, is it?
No, not at all. You know what? There have been so many mashups and so many like combinations of different characters. I would not be surprised to actually see that.
Yeah, it's true.
But so thank you so much, Ali, for your question, and I don't know, we'll wait and see what happens with Wonder Woman 3. Being one of the people who actually liked Wonder Woman 1984, I am looking forward to the next one. So
yes.
And also I'd like to petition white men to please stop talking about Chris Pine in that movie. I know that you have like feelings and emotions and stuff like that, but it's just getting exhausting and you're just repeating the same things over and over again. It's like the sandwich.
Yep.
Anyways,
just talk about it until it's meaningless, and yeah. Like, they should just stop.
Stop. I said the other day, I was like, you know what? Men seem to have more of a problem with the Chris Pine subplot in Wonder Woman than they do with all of the rapes in Game of Thrones. And I'm not saying that the Chris Pine thing is not problematic. We've talked about that. But you seem to be really bothered when it's a man involved in questionable consent. But when women get raped on screen, you're like, well, that's historically accurate.
Yeah, historical accuracy for a made-up world. Thanks, guys.
Yes. Dragons and ice zombies. You do not get to claim historical accuracy with dragons and ice zombies. Just like, well, there are dragons in this one. Just like, yes, no historical accuracy. Just like, but in the medieval period, there were no fucking dragons in the medieval period. Okay? There was no such thing as Westeros in the medieval period. Go away.
What? But there's a wall.
There is a
wall. So it's all true, therefore.
Oh my god. Anyway, so let's move on to talk about the main topic of this episode, which is not so much most anticipated, because 2020 taught us that we should not anticipate anything. We should just like think maybe about what we're going to be doing in the next hour, and that's about it. But some movies that we are hoping to see in 2021. So Karen, I'm going to let you start because I need to look at my list again. Okay. It's like, what are a couple of films that you're just really looking forward to that are supposed to come out in 2021?
Yeah, so I have a few. I don't think anybody will be surprised when I say that I am really, really hoping that we get to see Top Gun Maverick this year. I
am shocked.
Yeah, I know. You know, it's funny because I have a couple of friends that we all live alone, so we've kind of been in a pandemic pod together, and we were hanging out last weekend. We were having dinner or whatever, and something came up about Top Gun, about Maverick, and I said something about because I had pitched an article to a publication. I was going to write about the cinematography, because just from the trailer, I could tell the cinematography in this movie is going to be amazing. And so I just mentioned that, like, oh yeah, I was supposed to write about that this last summer, and I hope I'll still get to. And they were like, how can you tell the cinematography is good? And I'm like, okay, hold on. So we're at my friend's house, and she has this giant, like 75-inch TV. And so I pull up YouTube and ran the trailer, and they both just sat there staring at it, like stunned. Wow, that looks really amazing. And I was just like, right, you know. And so I'm talking about the photography of it and these beautiful images, and they're like, that movie looks so good, like I can't wait to see it. And it was really funny, but I was just like, yeah, thanks. So anyway, so yeah, that's one that I have been looking forward to for years. When Tony Scott was alive and he would talk about it once in a while and stuff, I thought, nobody needs this movie. We probably really don't want it, but I would still like to see it just because I loved the first one. But when they dropped that trailer at Comic-Con a year and a half ago, it was just like, it was the first time I was actually really excited for it and actually thought, wow, this might be a good movie. And so I've been looking forward to it for that long, and hopefully this summer we'll get to see it. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm shocked that this was something that you wanted to talk about. I knew, so, I was just like, oh yeah, that movie's coming out this year. I completely forgot about that. It's supposed to come out this year.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have one that I've been looking forward to for a while, and I was kind of sad. It was one of those films that might have been released to streaming. I understand why they didn't do it, but at the same time, it's like, oh, I kind of wish you did because I want to see it. Candyman, Nia DaCosta's Candyman, which I am so looking forward to. It looks like such an interesting, like, sort of sequel to the original film. Kind of doing something different with the Candyman story, but also doubling down on all of that horror. And I'm just really looking forward to it. It looks so cool.
Mm-hmm. It really does. That's on my list too.
Yeah, and I was a bit sad that it didn't get released to streaming, because I was like, well, it's a horror film, so it's not, a big budget, big tent movie. Though at the same time, I would really like to see it in a movie theater. That would be awesome. Whether or not I'm ever going to get to do that is a question. But yeah, so I am looking forward to that one. The second film that I wanted to mention, which we probably will see on streaming because it's a Warner Brothers film, is the next Conjuring movie.
Oh my gosh, you got another one on my list.
I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of overlap. Yeah,
probably,
The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. I fucking love the Conjuring films. I enjoy, and honestly, all of the Conjuring universe movies I have enjoyed to greater and lesser degrees. Mm-hmm. But this one is like actually a Conjuring film, which means that we get Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, and I'm really looking forward to that. So I think that that's going to be a lot of fun. I like the fact that they are, on the one hand, quite scary, but also very, like, not predictable, but sort of like, that things are pretty much going to work out in the end.
Right, because they both lived to a ripe old age, so obviously nothing bad happened. Well, not nothing bad, but, like, they got through all these experiences just fine. Yeah. When the second one came out, I got to go to the premiere for it. I don't even remember how that worked out, but I got to go to the premiere. It was part of the LA Film Festival when that was a thing. And Lorraine Warren was there. And I mean, she was in her 80s. She was in a wheelchair. And I don't think she really talked to very many people. But I remember thinking while the movie was going on, is she watching this and thinking like, wow, real life was way more intense? Or is she like, yeah, that's pretty much what happened? Or is she like, this was all made up and I totally duped everyone? Like, what is she thinking while she's watching these movies?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have my own opinions on the reality of the Warrens versus what the films represent, but the films are a lot of fun.
They really are. Yeah. One of the things I think that really makes them so good is the relationship between Ed and Lorraine, and I think Patrick and Vera are so good with that that marriage. Mm-hmm.
And Patrick Wilson in the Conjuring films like convinced me that Patrick Wilson was actually a good actor. And well, because he's spent his career playing the kind of blandly good-looking white guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's just, and that's just the way that he looks. He's good-looking, but he's not like overwhelmingly good-looking. He's not that interesting per se. And then like actually it's like, oh, he's actually really sweet and likable, and he's earnest and really loves his wife and all of that, and he could sing, so that too.
Yep, it's true. The one of the very first things I saw him in was Angels in America. So it's like from pretty much the beginning of my being a fan of his, I knew he was a really talented actor. But yeah, then it's like he got cast in the Phantom of the Opera, which was actually the first thing. It was like I saw that, I thought he was really cute. So then I was like, well, what else has he done? And that's when I watched Angels in America. But yeah, he just went through this thing for years where he was doing some really big movies with really big names, but his characters were never that interesting. And it was really too bad because it was like, I know he's capable of more than this. But he just wasn't, I don't know if he wasn't getting those roles or wasn't going after them. I'm not sure, but I love his Ed Warren. Yeah.
Yeah, he's wonderful. So what are some others that you are looking forward to?
So I'm also really looking forward to Last Night in Soho, which is Edgar Wright's next movie.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't actually really know much about it. I know it's something about the 60s in London, and that's good enough for me. And it's Edgar Wright, so it's like, yeah, I want to see this. The cast looks great. It's Thomasin McKenzie, Anya Taylor-Joy. I think Matt Smith is in it. My doctor. So
and Diana Rigg.
And Diana Rigg, yeah.
It's gonna be her. I think that this will be her last film.
I think so, yeah.
She passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, Edgar Wright, I don't know if you read this, when after she died, Edgar Wright wrote a really, really wonderful kind of tribute that was basically talking about the last time he talked to her. And this was she had been sick since March.
Mm-hmm.
It was when she was diagnosed with cancer, so she knew that she was going to die, and it was just a really, really sweet tribute to her and how wonderful she was and everything. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
definitely.
That one looks like a lot of fun. Well, it sounds good. I mean, it's got a great cast. It's Edgar Wright. How could you go wrong?
So you have another one?
So I'm just trying to like decide which way should I go and which way am I not taking all the ones on your list. So I will say another one of mine just because it looks really goofy, really silly, kind of dumb, and I will probably love it. Free Guy.
Are you kidding me?
I want to see that movie so bad.
Oh my god.
It's Taika. Come on.
Sure.
Yeah, no. It looks silly, but
yes.
I don't know. I think it's gonna be one of those like dumb movies. It's just really funny and really fun. So I like when Ryan Reynolds does comedy. So
he is good. He is a good comic actor, but still, it just looks so stupid.
It does, but I mean, it's Sean Levy who directed it, and he's done. I mean, a lot of the stuff that he's done, I've enjoyed. He did the Night at the Museum movies. He did Date Night. I mean, they're not all gems, but you know, they're at least fun, entertaining.
All right. Well, another one of mine, and this might be on your list. I don't know. Judas and the Black Messiah.
I didn't put that on my list just because I'm about to see it.
Because yeah, I kind of figured that you were, but so that's going to be premiering at Sundance, and I think it's got like a February 2021 release date.
Yeah, it's in the Oscar eligibility period. So.
So, and this is starring, some of this is just the cast. It's a fascinating story, but some of this is just the cast. It's got Daniel Kaluuya, Lakeith Stanfield, Jesse Plemons, Martin Sheen. And it's about the murder basically of Fred Hampton, who was the chairman of the Black Panther Party in the 1960s. And it just looks like such a tour de force film, and also very topical in its own way. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And so far, a lot of the buzz around it has been very positive. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one.
Yeah.
Another film that I'm very much looking forward to is Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley, which is, I believe, I don't think it's technically a remake because it's based on a book, But there was an earlier film, I think directed by Fritz Lang in the 1940s, that starred Tyrone Power. But this one just looks like this is exactly the kind of thing that Del Toro needs to be doing. It's about a carnival barker who gets involved with a mysterious woman and shit goes down, basically. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, just because Del Toro has yet to really disappoint me. The film of his that I've liked the least was actually Pacific Rim. And even then I enjoyed it. I just wasn't as interested in what he was up to as I have been with his other films. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah. Let's see. Another one of mine is David Lowery's The Green Knight.
Yes.
I'm so excited for that.
That's on my list. Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm really curious how they're doing it because it stars Dev Patel, and Alicia Vikander, and I'm trying to think who else. Joel Edgerton is in it. A few other people, but it's a retelling of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and I'm really curious what they mean by a retelling. Like, is it just another version? Are they doing something very different with it? Like, I'm so excited to find out. And David Lowery, I haven't seen all of his films, but I have liked every one of them that I've seen. So I think he's a really interesting director, and I'm just so excited to see what he does with this story.
Yeah, that one was on my list as well. Because again, that was one that it got advertised and then COVID happened and it got moved around. And I was still, again, hoping, I was like, well, it's a smaller film, so maybe they'll release it as streaming, and then they didn't. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. I completely understand why the studios are choosing not to release films via streaming and are like waiting for theaters to be able to open safely and for people to actually go back and everything. At the same time, I'm like, but I want to see them.
You know. Well, it was funny because it was last summer, or like maybe like toward the fall. I'm trying to remember exactly when it was now. I don't know. But anyway, I was just like, I was promised 2 Dev Patel movies this year, and I've seen 0 Dev Patel movies. And I finally did get to see The Personal History of David Copperfield, which I really enjoyed. It's a cute movie. It's not like way high on my list of favorites, but it was really cute. But this was the other one, and so I really would like to see it. But yeah, I'm with you. I agree. I think there's enough indie stuff hitting streaming. I think one of the problems that the studios have is because of how far-reaching the shutdowns are with not just theaters and stuff, but productions. There are very few things that are actually able to be up to full-scale production. So part of the reason for pushing this back is they're not going to have anything to release when theaters reopen. So why waste? I mean, that's probably not the right word, but why put their movies out in theaters in theatrical release when they're not going to get a big return on investment, when they could wait until the theaters reopen and people are going to be so happy to get to go to the theater again that these movies are going to make money. So it totally makes sense to me.
Yeah, it does. I'm still just disappointed that I haven't gotten to see some of them though.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, another one that I think I'm gonna guess might be on your list as well. Antlers.
Oh yeah.
Which is going to be released in October. It's going to be released, I think, like the day or a couple of days before Halloween. Which, ooh, goody. And this again is this. When I first saw the trailer for it, just like, is this Guillermo del Toro? Because it should be. If it's not, it's not.
It's Scott Cooper, yeah.
Yeah, but it looks like a Guillermo del Toro film, and it's about a boy who may be concealing a violent supernatural creature in his house, who may also be his parents. We're not certain, but it looks like so creepy and so good. Like it's been, I think, on the top of a number of different lists. Yeah. In terms of like most anticipated, and I am looking forward to that. Again, I want these films to come out earlier in the year, but I also know that we're not going to be able to go to the theaters earlier in the year. So,
yeah, I know. Another one of mine is In the Heights.
Yeah.
Oh, I have not seen the stage production. I will say I don't live near Broadway. It's really cost prohibitive for me to go to Broadway shows in LA on a regular basis. I get to go to a couple like every couple of years because it's, I went to see Dear Evan Hansen. It was $300. So it was just like, so I don't get to see Broadway shows very often.
I have to say, I live in New York. I do not get to see Broadway shows very often.
That makes me feel better. So I have not seen In the Heights, but I've heard some of the music from it and I love it. I love this cast. I love John Chu as the director. So it looks like the big movie musical spectacular that we really need, and it's going to be so fun. I really do hope that they I know this is one that's going to be released day and date, so it'll be on streaming and in the theaters, but I really hope that this is one that they do hold until the theaters reopen, because I do want to watch this like in a big movie theater experience with a full crowd. I think that'd be just so much fun. So
yeah, it seems like it's one of those big cast exuberant musicals, I definitely would like to see it on a big screen. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that one. So I've got one more, and I think that this is still to be determined, although I think it's still supposed to come out in 2021, the Bob's Burgers movie. I don't know if you love Bob's Burgers the way I love Bob's Burgers. I think that Bob's Burgers is like the funniest show on television right now, and I adore it and everything that happens in it. And I actually, unlike The Simpsons, which I don't think ever really lent itself to a feature-length film, I actually think Bob's Burgers can work really well as a feature-length, and you really only need to look at some of their kind of double or triple episodes, where you actually have a full arc going on, like the World War III episodes. And there's actually multi-pronged narratives and suspense and danger and a lot of humor. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I know that there's going to be like ridiculous musical numbers and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. I have seen a couple of episodes and I really enjoyed it, but it's one that it's like, I don't ever just think, oh, I should go catch up on Bob's Burgers. I never think of it. I don't know why, because what I've seen, I know, and what I've seen, I've really enjoyed. It's just never on the front of my brain when I'm trying to think of what to watch. So I should put it on a couple of watch lists so that it does pop up.
Yes, you definitely should. Mm-hmm. There's like 10 seasons now. We're in the 11th season. And it's all on Hulu. And amazingly enough, it still has remained fresh. And like the first couple of seasons are a little wobbly, as they tend to be, but it's one of those shows I think that actually took some critique of some of its like more problematic aspects and did something about it.
That's cool.
And didn't like retroactively change anything, but actually was like, oh yeah, this, maybe this is an issue that we need to change moving forward. There's a lot of critique of the way that they represented transgender people, and they didn't change the episode or anything like that, but they actually, there's a recurring transgender character who just shows up every once in a while, and she's great.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Also, although there are a lot of poop jokes, I must say, which some people enjoy, some people don't. I find them quite funny because they usually just keep on going with them as like, this is inappropriate, but also hilarious.
When they're well written and well placed, it's like, yeah, I have a very big appreciation for that. Mm-hmm.
So any others that you're really looking forward to that are supposed to come out this year?
All right. I'm really hesitant to bring this one up and you'll know why in a second. Right. But from the very first time I saw the trailer, I've been really looking forward to Death on the Nile.
Yes!
But now with Armie Hammer, I'm like,
Oh, come on. We can separate art and artist on this one. Come on.
Do they need to start putting a disclaimer in the credits for all of his movies? No people were eaten on the set of this film.
I told you that my parents
No
asked
blood
me
was
about
drank.
that.
Yeah, you did.
But I was like, so Army Hammer's a cannibal? And I was like, no.
Probably not.
Probably not. Like,
but
yeah.
you know, who knows? Anyway, no. I'm joking, of course. I'm actually very, very proud of being excited about this movie. I actually really liked Murder on the Orient Express, the Kenneth Branagh version. It had some issues. And I don't think that I don't think the ending fully worked as well as the original film or the book, but I really liked it, and I love the production design and the costumes and all of that. And so I'm really looking forward to this one, which I also think is even a better story. I've read this book too, pretty much the only two Agatha Christie books I've read, but I think that this one really gets into some more like heavy emotional stuff and really deals with some things in an interesting way. So I'm hoping that Kenneth Branagh will do that. But yeah, it's got such a pretty cast, and it again looks like it's just going to be gorgeously designed and photographed. And yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, me too. This is on my list. This was on my list last year, actually, because it was supposed to come out and then it didn't. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, partially just because I love Agatha Christie, and I like the fact that Branagh seems to be bringing back this, star-studded Agatha Christie adaptations, and I enjoy the crap out of that. Like, I love the Peter Ustinov films. I love David Suchet as Poirot, obviously, but the Ustinov films are fun because you're like, oh my god, that's Maggie Smith, and oh my god, that's Ingrid Bergman, and oh, it's Lauren Bacall, and that's fun.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that Branagh is doing that. He's just like, oh, it's Gal Gadot and Armie Hammer.
Exactly. And it's just like such
French
a great
and Saunders.
Yeah.
Like French and Saunders are there.
Yep. Exactly. And like Rose Leslie and Sophia Okonedo, and yeah.
So
pretty
I think
people.
That'll be fun.
Ali Fazal. Yeah.
So I think the final one for me is the next Fast and Furious film. I fucking love Fast and Furious. I think that you just have no sense of fun if you don't love Fast and Furious. And this was one that when they canceled it early last year, I was like, oh no, this shit is serious.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to it all year, so they're finally going to release it. It's big, dumb, ridiculous explosion fast car movies, and it's so much fun. I can't wait.
That's good. No,
well,
here's
Karen. Fine. I know that you don't like fun or joy or rainbows or puppies.
I love all of those things. And here's all I'm gonna say about Fast and Furious. I do not like them, but I completely understand and support the fact that other people do. And I'm not one that's like, stop making the Fast and Furious movies. They're terrible. Like, people love the crap out of them. Go love it. That's fine. Good for you. I'm happy for you. And I'm happy that there's going to be an F9.
It's about family, Karen. It's about family.
Yes, I am aware. I've heard that 5,000 times.
So
I'm just happy that Tom Cruise is going to beat them to space. That's all I'm happy about.
This is where you begin to go like, have we jumped the shark completely? As soon as you begin sending your cast to space.
Yeah. Well, Charlie Chaplin said movies are a fad. It was just, a much longer fad than we expected.
Interestingly enough, some of the earliest films involve going to space.
Yep.
Do you have any others that you're really looking forward to?
I'm really looking forward to Respect, the Aretha Franklin movie with Jennifer Jennifer Hudson. That looks I haven't seen tons of clips from it, but it looks like it could be really good. She sounds amazing. So yeah, I'm excited about that one. And also coming to America.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten that was coming out this year.
I directors aside, I love the original movie, and I've been wanting a sequel to this for 30 years. So
I think that'll be fun.
Yeah.
All right, so unless there's like another one that you wanted to mention, we can move on to talk about, I think in some ways, the more sort of varied thing that what are our film resolutions or cinematic resolutions, that like types of films, directors, stars, etc., that we really just feel like we need to see in 2021. So I can start. I have been actually, I've already started doing this. If you know who the director Todd Browning is, he directed the original Dracula, he did Freaks, and his career pretty much ended with the advent of the code. But he actually made a lot of silent films, some of which have nothing to do with the supernatural. And so I've gotten a chance to watch a number of those films. And he's just a really fascinating director, I think. One of the films that I recently got to see was Drifting, which has just been released by Kino Lorber. And it's very Orientalist. I think that's like, you have to put a caveat there. There's a lot of yellow face. And there are a lot of white men playing Chinese people, but it's actually far more interesting and nuanced than I expected it to be. And the final act is just basically like this massive, almost DeMille-like set piece, where like a village is being burned to the ground, and the heroine has to save a little boy and his duck. And it's great. And a lot of Browning's films actually feature women in very prominent roles. Like to the point that they are the actual heroes of the film, not the male heroes. So I want to watch more of his films, more particularly of his silent films, the ones that are available, and see like where his style really developed from, because we know him so much as this horror director, right? And Dracula, Freaks, and some of his Lon Chaney films, but he actually had a much more varied filmography than I think he gets credit for.
Yeah. Cool.
So what are some of yours? Do you have any resolutions for this year?
I have a few, but one of them is that this is the year I'm going to finish seeing all the Best Picture winners from the Oscars. I feel like it's kind of weird that I'm an awards editor and I've still got about 25 Best Picture winners that I haven't seen. So this is the year that it's going to happen. So the Broadway Melody of 1929, I'm coming for you. Simmer on. I guess we'll get through it. Some like a lot of these I've kind of put off because they don't look like movies I'm gonna want to watch, like The Greatest Show on Earth. But yeah, and like Tom Jones I started to watch one time and I was like, what the hell is this, and how did this win Best Picture? And then I fell asleep and I didn't finish it, so I have to start over and try it again. So I've got, I think, 25 that I have not seen, and this is the year that I will get through them.
That sounds like a good resolution. I do not envy you some of those films. I actually like Tom Jones. It's a very different film, but yeah, some of them are just like, really? This is just so fucking boring. Yeah. Okay, well, one of my other kind of resolutions, I guess, is to watch more Japanese noir, which I've talked about loving. And then I realized Criterion just recently released on the Criterion channel, like a whole bunch of other films that they were suggesting as part of Japanese noir. And there's so many that I haven't seen. And I was like, I thought I had seen most of the big ones, but apparently I haven't. I really like the way that the Japanese do film noir, and I think as I talked about on our film noir episode, it's so obviously drawing from noir traditions and from the French tradition and from the American tradition, but also doing something very unique and very Japanese, and different, I guess. Like some of these films don't look like any other films I've seen. So I really want to delve more into that sort of subgenre of Japanese cinema.
Awesome. Yeah. I was kind of thinking along those lines too. Like there's a lot of stuff I want to see, a lot of international films that I want to see, just because most of what I watch is American. And so like this year I've really made an effort to see all of as many as I can of the submissions, the Oscar submissions for the international feature. But I want to go beyond that. You know, I really want to experience like the film scene. Like what kinds of movies is Mexico producing? What is the history of Mexican cinema? You know, I want to go deeper into that. But also like on the genre note, like what you're talking about, one thing that every time I see a film, like I'm finding I'm really drawn to, when it comes to horror, I'm really drawn to Scandinavian horror. And every Scandinavian horror film that I've seen, I've really enjoyed. So I really want to explore more of that and see a lot more films from that genre, from that part of the world, because there's just, I don't know if it's my Scandinavian roots that draw me to it, but I really am fascinated, maybe because of how much I hate the cold, but I'm just fascinated by like these really remote, very isolated, very cold settings, and I think that just makes such a I don't know, such a great setting for horror movies. They're not all like that. Like, you know, some of them are out in the woods or whatever, but I love that isolation feeling that you get from a lot of these Scandinavian horror films. So I want to explore more of that.
Cool. Yeah, I never really thought about that. There's some good ones too, it seems.
Yeah, Lake Bodom is the recent discovery I made back during our Halloween horror time. That one's really fun, and I think that was where I realized, like, man, this is an area of the world and a subgenre that I need to explore more, because I've seen like Let the Right One In and a few others, but yeah, I need to see more of those.
Yeah,
what's another one
good
for you?
More giallo.
Definitely more giallo. We all need more giallo.
More giallo films. I actually, when we were back in October, when we were doing our various Halloween episodes, I began thinking about like, oh, there were like, I've seen a lot of Argento, obviously. I've seen a lot of Bava. I've seen a good bit of Fulci, and then I've seen sort of bits and pieces, right, of other directors. But there are definitely some big blind spots for me in giallo, and I want to kind of try to watch a bit more, and also to continue to unpack as to why I actually really like this genre, because it's a weird genre, and it's a weird genre, I think, that seems to attract a lot of women. Actually, a number of the people that I follow on Twitter who are into giallo films are women, and it's interesting because it's such an exploitative genre for women. But I don't know, I think there's a campiness and an extremity to it that really attracts women to a certain degree. So I would like to watch some more giallo. I know that Shudder right now has a whole bunch that I have not seen, and I'm going to try to get into some more of those.
I'm so afraid that they're gonna like disappear before I have time to watch them. So
yeah, the other place to check always is Amazon, and Prime has some weird ass films, and sometimes they're not great quality prints, which is unfortunate, but they do have a lot of like B movies, B classic films, and giallo films and things like that. And so that's always a good place to go if you're looking for sort of slightly more obscure or campier films.
cool.
So anything else? Any other final resolutions?
Yeah, like I said, I have a lot. One thing that I've been thinking is like I really want to focus, like pick a director and focus on that director's filmography. And I think this is something I might just try to do every year, just like choose one director that I'm going to try to really dive into their work. I kind of thought about this last year when I managed to get my hands on the Agnes Varda collection. And so it's funny because it's like some of the directors that I love, they haven't done that many movies, so it's pretty easy. Like I've seen all of Taika's films because he's done 6. I've seen most of Bong Joon-ho's films because he hasn't, he doesn't have like 30 movies or 40 movies to his name yet. He will, but he doesn't. So that's kind of where I'm thinking. And so this year I really want to dive into Claire Denis, and because I've seen High Life, I've seen parts of Beau Travail. I have never seen the whole movie, and I've seen Chocolat, but that was years ago, and probably not long after it first came out, in the 90s. So it's like I just really want to dive into her filmography and just make her like my director of this year. Just experience all of the work I can find from her.
That sounds like a really good idea. Yeah, Denis is actually, I may have mentioned this, Denis is actually a major blind spot for me as well. I just last year I saw Beau Travail because I realized I was like, I have never seen this movie. But she's an interesting filmmaker, definitely. Beau Travail is a fantastic film.
Well, and she's so influential on so many American male filmmakers. She's one that they always cite as someone that they're influenced by. And I'm just like, that's really interesting. I'm curious why. So is it just because they feel like they need to throw in a woman's name, or is there something specific to her and to her filmmaking that really draws them? So that's one of the reasons that I picked her specifically. But also I just really want to see her films. I thought High Life was super weird and I loved it. So
it's kind of like when I got into David Lynch. What the fuck is going on? I like it.
Yeah. It's like, wait, is she raping that guy? That's not okay. But also I'm very intrigued as to this story here that's going on. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah.
Oh my. Well, we did hear from one person about what their film resolutions are. And of course, please, listeners, come onto our Twitter page and tell us what your resolutions are. So from @JKC Hart says, I definitely want to watch more classics because I am way behind. And, this is one I think that we all sort of have a resolution for, because first of all, classics are apparently beginning to be like anything made before 1990. But also I think that we forget how many films have been made over the course of the last 100 and some years. And so what is considered to be classics and what is available and, what we should be seeing, etc. There's so many different types of films. There's so many good films, bad films, films that are important but not necessarily great. You're talking about watching a bunch of award winners, and some of those films are not good films, to be honest. Yeah. Even though they won Oscars, even though they were like, so heavily praised. And those are like the award winners. We're not even talking about the smaller films, like I say, the B and the C and the D films.
Right, yeah.
But I think that it's also really good to, as we have constantly said on this podcast, go into some of the lesser known ones, check out what's on the Criterion channel, what's available on places like Amazon or Hulu. You can find some really interesting stuff. And very often it's films that are made by women, films that are made by people of color, films that are made outside of Hollywood. And that's not at all to say that Hollywood films are not important in their own way, but it's always good to like kind of expand outward a little bit more and be like, well, I've seen Casablanca and The Godfather, so that's it. It's like, well, no, it's not it. There's a lot to see and experience, and is really, really worth it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, even going farther back, going into the silent era, you know, a lot of people have seen Chaplin and Buster Keaton, and they're like, oh yeah, I've seen them. But it's like, okay, if you've only seen The General or you've only seen The Great Dictator or The Kid, you haven't really seen them. You've seen like their big things, and those are great movies that you should watch, but there's so much more to see and to experience and to really understand like who they were as filmmakers and how they influenced film in ways that we still see today.
Yeah, silent film continues to be one that I have difficulty like catching up on. I feel like, and I think, and some of it is because there are films that now only exist in fragments. But then it also just finding good prints of the films can be somewhat difficult, and a lot of them aren't available on the major streaming services, right? But they are available on YouTube. They're available on archive.org. They're available in various film archives from around the world. And so it takes a little bit more digging to figure out what you want to see and what you're interested in. So like I say, wanting to watch more Todd Browning films, that's a good place to start for me, because I'm like, okay, I can go and I can seek out some of these films. And, just recently, I watching some of his films that he made with Priscilla Dean, who I had never heard of, but who was apparently one of the biggest silent film stars. And just basically her career ended essentially with the sort of rise of sound. And a lot of her films were missing, which is like she made a film with Lois Weber about the life of Margaret Sanger. This film is no longer available. It's lost. It's considered to be a lost film. And I'm sitting there going like, why was I unaware of this person until this moment, Same thing with someone like Lois Weber, who was, as we've said, one of the highest paid directors at Universal. And yet, we don't talk about her that much, or we're talking about her a lot more now. But it's always good to kind of dig more into some of these historical films and to recognize that what we, say are classics stretch way beyond, the more basic classics, I guess.
Yeah. But also, I will add to that, because I completely agree with everything you just said. But also, I think if you haven't seen, and I know this is funny coming from me since it's just been the last couple of years, but if you haven't seen movies like The Godfather, if you haven't seen Casablanca, which is the greatest film ever made, objectively, because I said it's true, definitely watch those too, because those are like classic movies for a reason. And even if you don't like them, it's fine. It's okay not to like them, except for Casablanca. But watch them just so that you know what other people are talking about and you understand. We've talked about this so much, but so you understand the films that inspired the filmmakers you love that are working today, So watch all of it. Just watch every movie ever made that you could get your hands on. That's really what it comes down to.
Watch all the films. Once again, the constant mantra of this podcast: watch more films, watch more movies, and in this case, watch all the films. So,
exactly.
Go forth and do that.
Right. But like, I'm just saying, watch The Godfather if you haven't seen it, but also go and watch other Francis Ford Coppola movies that you maybe haven't even heard of. Look for those, seek them out, and then read up on him and see who some of the filmmakers were that inspired him, and go back and watch some of their films and see what their inspirations were, and then just work your way back through time. It's really cool to do that.
It is. Well, on that note, I think that we can probably close this one out. So those are some of our resolutions, films we want to watch, and please let us know what yours are, because we always enjoy that, and that also means that there might be other films that we want to see that we haven't even thought of.
Oh yeah, definitely.
As always, we want to thank our patrons, especially, who continue to help us keep the lights on. So thank you so much to Ali, Matt, Heather, Adriana, Michael, James, Katie, Carriata, Mason, Matthew, Michelle, Monty, Nanina, Nicole, Robert, Sharon, Steve, Tao, and Will. Thank you so much, guys. And if you want to become our patron, we have a Patreon. That's patreon.com/citizendame. And you can get fun stuff and early episodes and bonus episodes, which we're going to be working on again. And then also just to help us to continue to pay our hosting fees and to keep the lights on. If you want to get something from our Zazzle store, we have masks. Everybody should be wearing your fucking masks. That's Zazzle.com/CitizenDamePod. You can also throw us a couple of dollars on our Ko-Fi account. That's ko-fi.com/CitizenDame. And you can get in touch with us a multitude of ways. We are on Twitter and Instagram at CitizenDamePod. You can email us at citizendamepod@gmail.com. And we have our website, citizendamepod.com, where we've got reviews, Blu-ray reviews, essays, things like that. I think that we're getting an essay or a review from Karen pretty soon, probably.
It's almost done.
You've been promising it for ages, Karen.
I know. There's been a lot going on in the world.
Yeah, I know. I absolutely understand. So we're going to have more stuff up on there. And of course, you can get in touch with us individually. I am on Twitter and Instagram at LHBusiness. Karen, where are you?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at Karen M. Peterson.
And that will close us out for today. We will talk to y'all later.
Bye.
It's gone. It's done. Yes, Mr. Frodo. It's over now.